Okay, I think I shall get started. I'm sure there's a few more people coming on, but let's get this show on the road. Okay, tonight I'm going to be talking about sleep. This has been a very interesting time in history where obviously there's been pandemics and things like that happening across the world, but it's a fact that more and more people have been struggling with sleep. The world is very stressed and it's affecting people enormously. This is an aspect of life that is extremely important, and in fact sleep is hugely misunderstood. It is one of the pillars of health. It is a non-negotiable. It's right up there with the need to exercise, good nutrition. Sleep is right there with those. Okay, it's very, very important that we have strategies and we understand more about it. So let's get right to it. So what is sleep? Well, you know, I like to keep things simple. I mean, the World Health Authority will describe it as a behavioral and psychological state characterized by altered consciousness, reduced responsiveness to external stimuli, and homeostatic regulation, all very complicated. I like to just think of it as a time to recharge our batteries. And you know what I mean. If you have a good night's sleep, you wake in the morning refreshed, you can tackle the day, you're more likely to be happy, you're more likely to get stuff done, you're a nicer person to be around, right? So what I want to do is really get into what is sleep. So let's understand the stages of sleep to start with. Many of you will have heard of these stages of sleep, of that I'm sure. There's actually 5 stages, and we'll bracket these up a little bit. Stages 1 and 2 is when you first fall asleep. You're not yet in a deep sleep, but what's happening is the brain waves are slowing down, and your heart rate and your breathing, your respiration, that's all slowing down as well. As we go through these stages, and we want to go through this entire cycle about 3 times throughout the evening, if we can get through these cycles, it puts us in the best possible states to feel rejuvenated in the morning. Now, once we get through stages 1 and 2, which is pretty much half the night, we then get into stages 3 and 4, where the brain waves slow down even more, and the brain starts producing delta waves, and we gradually get into a very deep stage of sleep. You become very difficult to awaken, and this is considered the restorative stage. The body's going through various physiological changes, and one of the most important ones is you actually release this growth hormone, which I shall talk about a little bit more. But basically what's happening is that this growth hormone allows the body to repair itself of any damage that's been done during the day. It's vital for memory, it's making connections in the brain. And why it's so important for kids is this is when we do all our growing. Okay, so repair and growth, brain, this is why it's so important. These stages 3 and 4 are about a quarter of the night, and if we can get through those, we enter the REM stage. So many of you will have heard of REM, but what does it actually mean? Well, it means rapid eye movement. So what's happening is, as you get through the very deep stages of sleep, the brain has been stimulated by all these connections, and the breathing becomes a little bit more rapid, more shallow. The heart rate and the blood pressure, they increase a little bit, and this is where you're likely to have dreams. Okay, so the brain's been connecting and healing, and things have been happening in the brain during stages 3 and 4. Memories have been created, all these things. And this sort of stimulates the brain to actually come back to life. And it does this in stage 5. And we get rapid eye movement as we are still asleep, as the brain's starting to wake up a little bit. Okay, as we go through that, we then re-enter. If we don't come back to full consciousness and wake up, we then go back into stage 1 and 2. And we repeat the cycle again, right? 3 times in the evening. this is on average. Okay, and what's interesting is nowadays we can actually measure these cycles. You might notice that on my finger here I've got a ring. Yeah, it's an Aura ring, and I'm actually measuring my cycles of sleep and my deep sleep and how much time is it. And you know, I myself, I run a business, I've got family and all these things in a stressful world, and I've had a few bad nights sleep myself. So, you know, me being me, I'm analyzing it. I'm making it right, and I'm working out what's going on. So I'm using an Aura ring. Previous to that, I was aware of what's happening on my watch. So I think these things are worth thinking about. So I've mentioned the brain. How important is the sleep for brain? Well, it is vitally important. It improves learning, memory, and mood. I mentioned before this growth hormone. That's when the brain connections, when you've been stimulating your brain during the day, during the evening, connections are made with this growth hormone, right? So you actually get smarter during your sleep. Creativity. You've probably heard of the term, let's sleep on it. You know, you have some kind of question or some kind of puzzle or problem. You can't quite, you know, solve it. So you put some energy into it, and you go to sleep, and then you wake up in the morning, and boom, the answer pops into your mind. And that's because where you've been putting energy in your brain during the day, those connections are made during deep sleep. I find this absolutely fascinating. It makes me want to really work on my brain, actually. You know, it's the most important thing I've got, and I want to maintain it as long as possible. So, you know, I'm really looking after it. You will make better decisions if you have better sleep. All the pathways are strengthened during sleep. But what if we don't get enough sleep? You know, that's called sleep deprivation. And conversely to all the good things that happen, if you're getting good sleep, then there's some pretty bad things happen if you're not sleeping well. It slows down the thinking process, right? Slows it down. And we don't want that. We want to be smart. We become more confused, you know, with brain fog. We've all sort of had that from time to time, but you know, hear me, you get it more if you're not sleeping well. Think about poor decision making. Think about how quickly you react to situations, right? These all happen if you're not sleeping well. Think about some of the big disasters that happen on the planet, you know, whether it be plane crashes or car crashes. I mean, I myself have been in taxis when the taxi driver's nodding and falling asleep. You know, these guys are sleep deprived sometimes, and it's downright dangerous. Chernobyl, which was a nuclear disaster, that was actually put down to fatigue and poor decision making and people falling asleep on the job, right? What else? Depression. You know, this affects your brain. Poor sleep affects the quality of your brain, and it makes you much more liable for anxiety, depression, and even worse. Slowing down reaction time, I've mentioned that, and decreased vitality. If you want to be vital and strong, and you want to be if you want to be part of your family and the community in the full sense of it for as long as possible into old age, then you've really got to look after your sleep. Make sure you're getting good sleep. And you know, here's my question to you: could we all be sleep deprived? And I talk to my clients a lot about this, and you know, pretty much everybody tells me that they do suffer from poor sleep from time to time. And I know many clients that come down that are coming to our clinics that already their brains are slowing down, and I've met many people that are showing signs of you know, brain atrophy or premature aging, even perhaps. And what we have to know is that this is a real problem in this world, is dementia, and it's happening younger and younger as the body is racked with the inflammation that goes with modern life, poor sleep, stress, and all these things. That's affecting brains, and people are getting dementia. And lack of sleep really, really does increase the likelihood of dementia, Alzheimer's, and all these things, right? Why is this? Well, if you're not getting into the deep sleep enough during the night, and this prevents your brain from clearing out the toxins. These toxins build up from normal metabolism as we live our lives, but they need to be cleaned out during the night. Okay. Now, I don't know about you and staying on the brain, but for me, most of my important aspects of my life are my very, very precious memories. Memories of people I've lost, memories of my children as they grew up. And so much so that I'm literally paranoid about losing all my photographs. And many of you will know what I mean. Now my photographs are digital. Oh, it stresses me out, the thought of losing them all. And we hold these memories, these precious, precious memories in our brain, and we're creating memories every single day. And I just wanted you to understand how this actually works. Try and think of your brain as a sponge. And I know that when my kids are, well, my kids are young, they're 19, their brains literally are like sponges. They're soaking it all up. It takes a little bit longer for me nowadays to get information into my mind, right? So let's think a bit more deeply about this. There is something in your brain called the hippocampus, and it's like the gatekeeper for our memories. All the information that comes into through our minds and our eyes and our ears, and all these visions and all these experiences of life, they all pass through our hippocampus. Now we need sleep before all this happens to empty the sponge. Remember, our brain is a sponge. Well, we've got to empty that sponge so we can actually accept all this information. But then after all this information comes in through the gatekeeper, the hippocampus, we need quality sleep so that all this information can then be filed away in all the various areas of the brain. I hope that makes sense. But if you're not able to get into that deep sleep, then we're not creating those memories, right? And this is extremely important for your young children as they're learning. If they're cramming for exams, I know it's hard sometimes, but try and get them off to sleep nice and early. So I always like to think of health as a state of balance. We call it homeostasis. The body's got all these systems that bring us back into balance, right? Think of your body as a construction site. It's breaking down and rebuilding itself all the time. And for all this to happen, there's a lot going on, and we absolutely need the sleep. I know I'm repeating myself. We need quality sleep. And this is a vital part of homeostasis, right? How the body brings itself back into balance after all the work and after all the tiring aspects of life itself. We need to be regenerated and we need to be rebooted every night, right? Now, I am met with a sobering fact every single day because I'm here in Singapore that the health statistics on this lovely island actually leave something to be desired. And despite Singapore being one of the top countries in the world for longevity, unfortunately, way too many of us are living with degenerative conditions. It's a fact, sad fact actually, that 80% of us, that's 4 out of 5, eventually succumb to one of these awful things. Arthritis, degeneration, arthritis, degeneration can cover all sorts of aspects. Diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, strokes, heart attacks. Now, more recently, they've actually added mental health and debilitating headaches to this list. And this is the way things are going. And if we think about these are all avoidable diseases. or conditions. They are avoidable. And we really, really do need to think a little bit more deeply, and we need to be more proactive with our life, okay? A major factor with all these is sleep deprivation. Now while we're on this subject, if we look at that, we've got high blood pressure, we've got strokes, heart attacks. How can sleep help that? Well, let's just think about it for a moment. Good sleep promotes heart health. So what's happening? Well, it literally gives your heart and your vascular system a break, a much needed rest. All right. Remember, your blood pressure drops. And when it drops and that growth hormone gets into your blood, then this is when the repair of the your endothelial lining, so the lining of your blood vessels that gets damaged during the day, that actually is repaired at night, right? So that means the lack of sleep, we know that is going to create a situation where you have more cortisol, more stress. This triggers the release of adrenaline, and this is a vicious circle that we get trapped in. Poor sleep, more stress, and your heart is not getting a break. So there is an inevitability of, if you're having cycles or long period of times of poor sleep, that it will create inflammation, and eventually it will cause hardening of the arteries, right? And that means high blood pressure and increased likelihood of heart attacks and strokes. Okay, let's just not go there. Let's just look after ourselves. So quality sleep, we now know, is vital for optimum regulation of the body, if you like. And a lot of this regulation, that's how the body is controlled, happens through the endocrine system. And by that, I mean hormones. These are chemical messages that are produced in various parts of the body that pass through the body in the blood, and it's passing messages, right? I mentioned growth hormone. That's one of the ones that springs to mind immediately. One of the thing happens is cytokines. So during sleep, your body is creating cytokines, and these are hormones that help the immune system fight various infections. So we've heard of cytokine storm during COVID and everything, and that's the immune system overworking, creating too much inflammation, which caused so many problems during the COVID-19 pandemic. But these cytokines are natural. You don't want too many, but you definitely don't want too few, because they do very important things, right? They are actually stimulating and keeping the immune system healthy. Now, sleep is also a very powerful regulator of appetite, energy use, and weight control. And it does this through various mechanisms. And the hormones in question are leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is an appetite suppressor, suppresses your appetite when your body perceives that you've had enough. And then ghrelin is the appetite stimulant. So if you've got too much of that bombing around in your blood, then you're going to keep eating, right? And that can lead to problems. So it's very important that this leptin and ghrelin is kept in balance, and this regulation very much happens during the night, during sleep. Okay, and we now know, it's a proven fact, that people that are only getting sort of 5 hours sleep are much more likely to put on weight, become obese, compared with people who are getting sufficient sleep. And by sufficient sleep, I'm talking probably more than 7 hours. So we all want to age healthily, and this is a key part of it. Quality sleep is a vital part of our wellness lifestyle. Now, I'm a chiropractor. I talk a lot about wellness. This is the proactive aspect of healthcare. And so medicine is very good for emergencies, and when you've got a real problem, you go to the medical doctor. But for a wellness lifestyle and promoting quality sleep, this is a vital aspect of it. Then this is where we slot in as chiropractors. So I wonder how much we should sleep. What do you think? If anybody has any questions, then I'm going to do a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to pop questions in the chat, I'll be checking that as we go through. Any questions, then I'll be right on it at the end. So let's think about how much we sleep, because as we go through life, our sleep changes, and you'll be very aware of that. We know that newborn babies, they sleep an awful lot, and yeah, they're meant to be sleeping 16 to 18 hours a day. Why? Because they're growing like crazy. There's a lot going on in there, and they need all those hormones running around. They need to be asleep, right? That's when growth, and that's when it all happens. Young kids, they're growing, preschool ages, they still need 11 or 12 hours a day. There's a lot of growth going on. There's a lot of learning. Their brains are forming. We do not want to hold them back by allowing them to have poor sleep. As kids get to school, they should still have 10 hours a day. My kids are still teenagers, they're 19. They should be getting their 9 or 10 hours a day. Well, you know, I know, personally speaking, my wife and I, we've had a running battle with our kids. They are already nocturnal. They go to bed way too late, but they sleep until lunchtime. So they kind of balance it out in their way. But it really, really is important that they get enough sleep. Adults, including the elderly, still need their 7 or 8 hours a day. 8 is preferable. As you get older, it gets harder to sleep. And I know that, I felt it myself. And so you know, I'm thinking about all the solutions. I'm putting them into practice myself. Adults tend to be woken up by various changes going on in their bodies, but they still need their sleep. Okay. Right now, you know, talking about life and growing and becoming adults, that you know, this sort of reinforces the fact that we are actually animals that have been tamed, and we are living in a very abnormal, it's a very man-made world. So we are out of our normal environment, and I think that our environment and life has evolved much faster than our bodies have been able to evolve themselves and change and adapt. So you know, I do think about this, and I like to keep my life as natural as possible. And while I talk about life and the fact that we are animals as part of the greater ecosystem of life, I do spot things in nature that I find quite interesting. I always like to share some of them. So what happens, for example, if you are a mammal that lives in the sea? Interesting thought, eh? You're a dolphin or a whale, right? You're a mammal, so you need to breathe, but you also need to rest and sleep. Well, how does that happen without drowning if you're underwater all the time? Well, it's fascinating. Both these whales and dolphins, what they do is actually they shut down half their brain at any one time. They never go into full slumber. Only half of their brain shuts down at any one time, and it alternates. And that way, they can still come up, take a breath of air, and go back down. Isn't that fascinating? So they don't go into the deep sleep like we do. They kind of do, but only half of their brain at any one time. Fascinating. So what about these guys? I met these guys when I was doing some scuba diving in Monterey, California. These are sea otters, and you see what their technique is for their sleep. You got it. They hold hands. They literally, you see them floating among the kelp beds, holding hands, so they don't drift apart. Isn't that the coolest thing? When I saw this, I just thought, that is cute. I have to share this. So what I'd like to do now is go on to my tips for getting a good night's sleep. We know how important it is. So I want you to use this as a way of just sort of thinking about your life. What changes might you make to perhaps improve your life? So I've got a dozen tips here. Let's see which ones resonate with yourself. So first of all, exercise. If you're not sleeping well, you know, are you getting enough exercise? Because if you exercise more, then you're likely to have quality sleep, more likely to have quality sleep. But remember, don't exercise too late, because that gets your heart going and things like that. But try not to exercise in that last 2 or 3 hours before bedtime. My tip number 2 is make sure, this is a no-brainer, avoid caffeine and stimulants. So obviously you shouldn't be smoking, but caffeine. And people think about, actually aren't aware that all these sugar drinks, all these Coca-Colas and all these drinks that usually come in Cokes in cans or bottles, they have a lot of stimulants. Many, in fact, have caffeine in them themselves. So try not to take any of these after 3 o'clock. All right. In fact, noon is even better. Number 3, try and get into a schedule, into a rhythm. Our life works better if we are in a nice, healthy rhythm. We're actually creatures of habit, and our bodies and our minds have problems adjusting to changes in the rhythm. Think about when you travel, right? You're knocked out of kilter with jet lag. I know it affects me. It definitely takes me 2 or 3 days, sometimes even more, to get on an even keel. One thing to be aware of, lots of people lose out on their sleep during the week and say, it's okay, I will catch up at the weekend. But that doesn't fully work. You will catch up to an extent, but you cannot make up in its entirety for all that quality sleep that you've lost. Okay, and also, if you sleep all day on a Saturday and Sunday trying to make up, it's going to make it real hard to wake up on a Monday morning because you are out of your schedule. Okay, worth thinking about. We all know that many people like a little bit of a tipple at night, and I just one just to calm me down at the end of a stressful day. I'll have that nightcap. Well, just be very careful, because actually it does tend to rob you of the important stages of sleep. It can hold you in a shallow sleep, and it prevents you getting into deep sleep. Also, obviously, if you've been drinking, you might end up waking up because you're in shallow sleep, and you might want to go to the bathroom as well, right? And then there's the other thing is, alcohol tends to have a lot of carbs, so that goes with this one. Try not to have large meals or beverages late at night. Why is this? Well, it gets your body revved up, so we don't want that. But also, what happens is that you get an insulin rush. When you get all these carbs in your blood, then the body has got to produce insulin. Now that insulin does its job. It takes those carbs out of your blood and puts them in your cells, but then you get an insulin crash. Now it's part of our physiology that when insulin drops quickly, it stimulates cortisol. Cortisol, that stress hormone, right? So just be very careful. Don't eat too late. Don't drink sweet drinks, and don't drink too much late at night, because I guarantee you're going to have a drop in insulin at some stage, and then that's going to raise your cortisol prematurely. Right, so let's think at how this works. Excuse me. The cortisol is the stress hormone that naturally raises in the blood early in the morning. So think about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Now that's getting you ready for the day, right? Your body's getting woken up. You're ready to tackle the day. Now, as that rises, you'll see the drop in melatonin. Now, melatonin is that very, very important hormone that the body produces that puts the brain and the body in that state where we can fall asleep. So we do not want cortisol to be released too prematurely, because that's going to rob us of sleep. All right. Now, melatonin is a very good supplement. I have some here. Right, melatonin, and it's something that works very well. It's pretty safe. In fact, it's very safe. But you should start small. So if you want to try it, you could try 30 minutes before bed and just start small. Maybe 0.5, half a milligram. If that's okay, or maybe that's not having the effect, and increase to 1. These little guys here, these are 3 milligrams. So when I started on these, I cut them in half. And I got used to them, and then now I just take one half an hour before I go to sleep. Don't take it all the time, but if I really feel like I really need a good night's sleep, then I'll put one of these in half an hour before I go to bed. Okay. What else can we do? Well, obviously, medications. We should definitely avoid the medications that delay or disrupt our sleep, right? If you have any doubt, perhaps you could try reading the small print, but it's pretty small. Good luck if you try and read it. Maybe ask your pharmacist, or you can Google it, right? You'll get the answers there. But some of these commonly prescribed over-the-counter or prescribed medications, whether it be for heart, blood pressure, asthma meds, or even some herbal remedies, they can all affect your sleep patterns. Okay, so do ask your pharmacist. Maybe you could take them at a different time of day, or maybe they can just change the meds that you're on so that it doesn't affect your sleep. Right? What other tips? Things that you should be aware of. If you're a napper, I'm a napper. But try not to take naps after 3 o'clock, because if you take them after 3, then I think there's a good chance that it's going to come out of your main sleep. And when you do nap, make it a power nap. Try not to sleep for more than 20 or 30 minutes at a time. Highly effective in recharging during the day. As I get older, I tend to have more and more naps, and they do recharge me for the afternoon. But I try to keep it no more than 20, 30 minutes. All right. What else? So again, I mentioned that we are creatures of habit, and we like our rhythms. So prepare ourselves for sleep. So we should start to wind down. So maybe an hour, hour and a half before bed, maybe sooner than that. Make sure you start to relax. I love reading, and I wish I could read more. I think that one of the best things you could possibly do is read something that is not stressful. So it's certainly not social media, certainly not the news or newspapers or current affairs. That is all way too stressful. I think we should all get into reading nice stories, or like the old days, how we used to entertain ourselves in the old days. We'd read nice stories. Well, that really is a good strategy for sleep. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, again, you've got that book, that nice story that you've been reading. The last thing you want to do is be checking your Facebook or Instagram just before bed. We want to calm down. You can start dimming the lights, perhaps. Maybe listen to some music. Prepare the body for what's coming. Another great thing to do is take a warm shower. Now, what will happen is that warms, obviously, a warm shower, a warm bath is warm. So what happens, that will dilate the blood vessels. When the blood vessels dilate, the blood pressure will drop, right? So that, again, that's a good thing to help us fall into sleep. Now, what also happens as the blood vessels dilate, brings the blood to the surface, to our skin. Then the next stage is we are going to cool the room that we're in. And then as the body cools, that drop in body temperature causes sleepiness. And it does work. So it's really worth trying, right? So again, check in with these things. All these, I'm going to make this all available to anybody who wants it after. So please don't hesitate. Do ask, and we can send you a PDF file of all this stuff through. We all wake up from time to time. I think that one of the most important things is that you keep your bed, your bedroom, as a place for sleep. So don't lie in bed for too long, tossing and turning. Inevitably, your brain's going to get busy. I've done it myself. We've all done it. It's stressful. We want to go to sleep. We try our best. And, oh my God, counting sheep, all these things. It just increases anxiety. So one of the best things you can do is leave, go back to somewhere that is where you've been reading your book, go back to the sofa or something, not too bright lights, maybe just a little bit of relaxing light on your book, and just start reading again. Allow your body to become drowsy and then go back, right? Don't lie in bed for hours stressing, right? Very important. Then, of course, one of the most important things is the environment in which you sleep, right? You've got to prepare yourself, right? This is your your happy place, right? This is the place where you feel secure. This is the place where you sleep, you regenerate, and where you reboot. So you must have a good sleeping environment. So just going to go through a few things. Why don't you use this as a checklist to assess your sleeping space? As I mentioned before, we should dim the lights an hour before bed, right? Blackout curtains are a really good idea. You really do want your room as dark as possible. You don't want light pollution. You don't want blinking lights on phones or electronic gadgets. They will all disturb your sleep. So, try and go for blackout, or maybe even some eye covers, some blinkers. These things that you see people wearing on airplanes or whatever, they work really well. You should really think about what's in your room. Anything that might distract you, try and get it out of the room, right? Electronics. We are creating a calm, uncluttered space conducive to sleep, right? I mentioned before, we want to cool our body. We want to cool the core. So try and get your room down to something between 16 to 20 degrees. Maybe a little bit more challenging in Singapore, perhaps, but you can do it. What I do is we get the AC on, and then we knock the AC off once we're in bed. The room's nice and cool, and then we have a nice fan just blowing down on top of the bed. That's what we do, right? And the fan also is a nice dull sort of humming sound, whirring sound in the background. That's a nice bit of white noise that also helps block out any external noises. It works. Obviously, your mattress and your pillow wants to be conducive. It doesn't want to be uncomfortable. Again, block out any annoying sounds. And then the final one, and my wife is a big one on this one. She loves lavender, and she sprays lavender essential oil on the pillow. It really works for her. If she wants me to get off to sleep quickly, she'll squirt some on my pillow as well. And our favorite is lavender. So really worth a try. Okay. Now, what other strategies can we actually think of to re-establish our circadian rhythms to make us more efficient at falling asleep? So I'm just going to run through a strategy that I've tried, and it does work. Many of my clients have tried it. I did some research many years ago, and I've been sharing this for a long time, and people do tell me it works. So first of all, think about what's the minimum you actually want to sleep. What time do you need to be up, right? Let's just say you must be up at 7, right? You want to be at 7, but how much sleep do you really, really want, right? Okay, ideally 7 or 8 hours, but I really need 6. Right, we'll start with 6. So don't even enter your bedroom until 6 hours before you need to be up, right? You want to be up at 7, so you're not even going to enter your room until 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, this sounds counterintuitive because you need your sleep, but we're trying to get you into we're trying to develop a strategy. So let's just try this. Do not go into your bedroom until you're really tired. Don't go into your bedroom at 1 o'clock, but make sure you've prepared your room, right? You've gone through this healthy pre-bed routine. You've had your shower, you've dimmed the lights, all these things, right? You're not going to your bed until 6 hours before. Perhaps you could do a sleep diary, right? Maybe just keep notes on its success, the timings, because we're going to run with this over a few days. Right, so you're not going to bed until 6 hours before. And then hopefully you're getting as much sleep as possible. Keep a diary once you're achieving 90%. So for example, let's say of that 6 hours, once you are doing maybe, let's say 5.5 hours, right? Maybe then you can start to bring that bedtime forward, right? And then you just run through this over and over again. You're easing your bedtime forward. Try this, take a picture of this. It does work. And I've really helped a lot of people do this. Now, I thought about, if soldiers are in the war zone, what is their strategy? If you're in a noisy, stressful place, Well, obviously the military have thought deep and long about this, and they've experimented and they've done a lot of research, and this is how they do it. And this is one of the things that I do most nights when I go to bed. So this is what are you going to do? You want to go to sleep. Concentrate on the muscles of your face. So these are mostly your eyes and your jaw, especially the jaw, right? Just let it all relax. And you'll notice that when you concentrate on your face, you do hold a lot of tension in your face. So relax it all, force it to happen. Then think about your shoulders, drop your shoulders, let the tension come out, and then your arms, and then your torso, and work down your body gradually so that you let all the tension go. And then go back to your face. Again, by that time you've come back to your face, I guarantee you've got more tension back around your eyes and your jaw. Let it go again. And I want you to just run through your body, just letting the tension go. Keep coming back to your face. And then if you do this over and over again, it becomes a routine that will really help your body fall asleep. It might, when you start this, it might take a few repetitions, but eventually it will work. I almost guarantee. Go back to the start, keep on going. So what about mattresses and pillows and your sleeping posture? Let's get down to that. Hard to sleep if you're in pain. So if your spine is holding stress, if you're achy or whatever, so you really want to sleep in a good position, which means you want a neutral spine. If you sleep on your side, which is many people like to do, then you can use pillows to achieve that neutral spine. You see in the top there, areas of red, that's where the spine is twisted. That's where you're going to have some stiffness in the morning because there's stress in the spine. So we're looking for a neutral spine. If you sleep on your back, again, if you've got a big pile of pillows and your head's being pushed forward, you're going to have stress there. So what I use is an orthopedic pillow, or you could use a neck roll perhaps. You want to use sleeping on your back as a time to recover that natural curve of the neck. Okay. Again, we are all individual. We've all got our own shape. So we've got to work with it. It really is worth finding your sweet spot. As far as mattresses are concerned, you definitely don't want them too hard. If they're too hard, there's going to be pressure points, on your shoulders and your hips and elbows and things. Those pressure points will ultimately, inevitably, they'll wake you up. But you also definitely don't want it too soft because your body will panic. So ideally, and I know a lot about this because I've worked with people who actually develop mattresses, is you want some firm mattress underneath. So this is the support layer, and then you want a comfort layer on top, so which will actually accept all your lumps and bumps. Okay, so the ones that I favor myself are sprung mattresses, and they've got quite firm springs underneath, and then they've got this comfort area, comfort on top, which is probably some kind of foam. Okay, that's what I do. Now, obviously, I'm a chiropractor, so why do chiropractors talk a lot about sleep? Well, because we are right there involved in wellness and proactive ways of looking after ourselves. Why do a third of my clients report an immediate improvement in their sleep? I mean, that is quite incredible, really. A third of people that come in will tell me immediately that their sleep has improved. Well, let's think about it. What's happening when we do the adjustments? Many of you are watching have experienced adjustments. Maybe you're aware that tension's coming out, your stress is coming out of your system, you feel less pain, of course. But other things are happening. The adjustments are improving blood flow, obviously relieving nerve pressure. It's reducing stress hormones that are running around your body. Obviously, with reduced pain, improved breathing, this is going to help things. Then, of course, chiropractic adjustment is obviously a lot safer than taking medication. And another thing that's happening, when you receive your adjustments, it's improving your immune response. Most people that receive their adjustments, there is a 200%, so your immune system, and they measure this with the white blood cells running around in the blood. So this can improve by 200%. So again, sleep and adjustments all working together can really improve your immune system, right? So I've gone through a lot of stuff there. I'm going to have a look at the chat in just one moment to see if there are any questions. If you've got anything, pop it in there, and I'll be very happy to share. But just to close, understand that improving your sleep, if you have poor sleep, is literally a mission critical thing that you must achieve, right? Sleep is not an optional lifestyle luxury. It is a non-negotiable biological necessity. Your physiology, that means how your body works, absolutely needs it, okay? And it really is your life support system, okay? So any questions, then pop them in. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat right now. Someone popped in. Do you agree that as we age and get old, we need less sleep? Okay, well, it seems that we need less sleep. And if we have a really good night's sleep, which might only be 6 hours, if you find that your sleep is being compromised as you get older, if you get a good night's sleep, so it might only be 6 hours, then you feel energized and you feel restored. That is true. But, it is a fact. If you can get 7 or 8 hours, it is even better. So we are basically aiming as we get older to have as much quality time as better. So, I know as you get older, you tend to visit the bathroom more, you've got a lot on your mind, etc. But, we really do want strategies to try and improve our health. Okay, I hope that. How about power nap that we take during the day? Again, I am a power nap expert. In the past, I've used power naps to enable me to drive across continents. I use power naps during my long days. I start early, finish late. I'll have a power nap at lunchtime, absolutely. But I really do try and keep it to about 20 or 30 minutes. I do encourage them. I've spent many years living in Spain where people have more than power naps. They have siestas, and they will literally go to bed for 2 or 3 hours, and that will affect the quality of your night's sleep. So if you have a long power nap, it's probably going to come out of your big sleep as well. Okay, so gone through a lot of stuff there. If anybody wants copies of this, then do let us know. I'll be very happy. If anybody wants to contact me, you've got my email there. So go ahead, just send me your questions. I'll be very happy to help. And in doing that, I'd like to conclude. I'd like to wish you a good evening. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.